In an old car, my 6-year-old nephew whispered, "Uncle, please help me." His voice was almost too soft to hear. "Uncle, please help me." I froze, hands still on the rusted car door. He was curled up on the back seat, knees pulled to his chest, eyes swollen, lips split. The smell of damp fabric and stale food filled the air, heavy, suffocating. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. A 6-year-old boy should not know how to whisper like that. His words weren't a complaint, they were survival. Bruises patterned his arms like fingerprints pressed too hard. A thin blanket clung to his body, doing nothing against the late-night cold. My nephew, alone, abandoned, trembling in silence inside a car that hadn't moved in weeks. My phone was in my hand before I thought. I called his parents. They answered on the second ring. Laughter spilled through the speaker. Wind, music, glasses clinking. "We're at the beach," his father said, careless, drunk on freedom. "Don't bother us, he's fine." The line went dead. I stared at my nephew's small frame in the dark, my hand still holding the phone against my ear, though the call was already over. Fine. They called this fine. I sat in the driver's seat, not starting the engine. He leaned against me, fragile, trusting, too tired to question. I wanted to storm their house, drag them back, scream at them until their laughter died in their throats. But rage doesn't work. Rage warns people you're coming. Instead, I drove him to my apartment, quietly, no words, just the hum of the engine and his shallow breaths. That night, I cleaned his cuts. Watched him fall asleep instantly on my couch. A child should never collapse like that, exhaustion deeper than his years. I stared at him for hours. And in that silence, the betrayal settled into me like a knife pressed under the ribs. Not against him, against me. I had trusted them, believed their picture-perfect smiles, their curated family outings, believed they could be parents. But they were at the beach, laughing, while their son whispered for help inside a decaying car. This wasn't neglect, this was abandonment dressed as leisure. And something in me shifted that night. The next days, I acted like nothing had changed. I answered their occasional texts, careless check-ins, only when guilt pricked them. "How's he doing? We'll be back next week. Don't stress." I smiled at their words on my screen. Smiled, but said nothing. Instead, I began collecting. Photos of his bruises, medical records from the clinic I quietly visited. The car parked outside their building, stuffed with trash, where their son had lived alone. Every night I documented. Every night I listened to him breathe in sleep, the kind of sleep that only comes when fear finally loosens its grip. Their laughter rang in my ears, replaying, mocking. "Don't bother us." But I did bother, in silence. I traced their credit card transactions, hotels, bars, resorts. Not once did they spend on their child. Every receipt was a confession. My hands were steady, my heart was not. Yet I never called them, never accused them. I wanted them comfortable, carefree, still laughing on beaches, still blind to the trap I was laying beneath their feet. The folder grew thick. Photos, receipts, doctor's notes, a record of 2 people who abandoned their son while pretending to be alive. When they finally returned, sunburned, smiling, drunk on their freedom, I was ready. They came to my apartment, expecting gratitude. "Thanks for watching him," his mother said, brushing sand from her bag. I handed her the folder. No words. Just paper, page after page. Evidence, printed and undeniable. Her smile faltered first, then his. "What is this?" she whispered. I didn't answer. I just watched them flip through their own cruelty, each photo colder than the last. The boy stirred in the next room, murmuring in his sleep. Their heads turned, shame flickering. I stayed silent, calm, detached. Silence is heavier than shouting. Silence forces the guilty to fill it with their own guilt. "You can't," his father began, voice shaking. I cut him off with one sentence. "I already filed everything." Their eyes widened. The weight of those words hit harder than any scream could. The authorities had the folder. The clinic had the report. Their credit card history was no longer private. They were already exposed, already unraveling, and I just sat there, composed, watching them drown in a tide they thought would never come. His mother covered her face with her hands. His father cursed, begged, threatened. I didn't move, because the truth was already free. And truth, once exposed, doesn't return quietly to the shadows. Later that night, I stood at my window. The city below moved on, unaware. In the other room, my nephew slept deeply, unafraid for the first time in weeks. Their laughter no longer echoed in my head. It was gone, stripped, replaced by silence. I felt no pity. They had chosen beaches over blood, freedom over flesh, pleasure over parenthood. Now, all they had left was consequence. I turned away from the window, looked at the small body asleep on the couch, chest rising, falling. I whispered to no one, "Never again." And for the first time, I believed it. Some betrayals cut so deep they don't bleed. They just bury the guilty alive.